Did you know that all the content that's created at Makeup Revolution has to follow their zero skin retouch revolution policy? Welcome to the Cosmetic Chronicles, the podcast where history meets beauty and tells the amazing stories behind some of the world's most notorious brands. I'm your host, Sarah Carvalho, and I'm a beauty journalist who has been obsessed with makeup since my first swipe of mascara. So, starting off, as always, with a little Sarah story, I actually didn't become aware of Makeup Revolution until maybe 2020, 2021, around that time. They were here. I just didn't know. And I started seeing them more at Target and Ulta, kind of the combo. And I knew that they were known for making some good dupes, but I have to say, two of my favorite products from them, I don't think are technically dupes. And I have them here. So if you're watching on video, you can see this. If not, I will play with them over on my Instagram, and I will also take a photo of this eyeshadow palette because it is used and abused. So let me show you them. So the first product I ever got from Makeup Revolution is their Soph palette, which we will talk a little bit more about Soph and the influencer marketing that Makeup Revolution really did so well in the early days. But I think I saw someone on Instagram have this, and my project panners are going to love what I'm about to show. So for anyone who doesn't know what I'm talking about when I say Project Panner, first of all, a lovely community over on Instagram. I absolutely adore being a part of all of the projects, but it's essentially a makeup accountability partnership. So we all will create these fun little projects to basically just try to use our makeup that we have. And the goal is to hit pan or to see the metal that's underneath the powder product or cream product. It gives you this very visual result that you are like using your product up. So this was the first eyeshadow palette. I'm going to, first of all, broken. I like the top just comes right off. Still love it. Won't get rid of it. Look at that. Look at how loved that is. For anyone who doesn't have video or can't see it at the moment, again, I will take a photo of this for my Instagram, but there are, I think, at least 8 pans that you can see. But like, look how well loved this is. This eyeshadow formula is beautiful. I love it. I love this palette so much. I know that if I can only take one with me, I sometimes will take this one, which is it's big. It has a little something for every look, but absolutely love this eyeshadow palette. There doesn't exist anymore, which is devastating. I think you could probably find it on eBay or something, but that's another reason why I won't get rid of it. And the second product I tried, I talk a lot about over on my Substack, and I've mentioned it in a few posts over on Instagram. It's their multi-use balm. So this is actually lip, cheek. I usually just use it for cheeks, and it's this beautiful kind of watermelon shade. And I don't think my first thought is maybe this was trying to be a dupe for Jones Road, their kind of balmy blush, but the textures are completely different. The finish is different. I find the Jones Road one to be a little sticky. This isn't sticky at all. So I don't know if this is technically trying to be a dupe, but I absolutely love it. So this is like one of my favorite cream blush formulas. I always tell people it's kind of like a quiet underdog in the cream blush space, but this is so I will be using both of these over on my Instagram so you can see. But these were the two products that I tried from the very beginning for me in my relationship with Revolution, but I have been lucky enough to get to try more because the brand was kind enough to send me a bunch of products. I'm going to play with them over on my Instagram, some of their hero products, their iconic products, some new products. So I'm going to have at least a few reels over on my Instagram playing with them. So thank you so much to the brand for allowing me to play and just send me some of those products just to help grow my Makeup Revolution collection. Okay, so obviously we will be talking more about products later on in the episode, but for now, let's go back to the beginning. So, Makeup Revolution may be known now for their high quality, affordable dupes, but when they began, their focus was really more so on just creating high performance makeup at low prices that could still be trend led, meaning they could still meet the trends as they were happening in a faster capacity than other affordable brands. Tom Allsworth and Adam Minto founded Revolution Beauty London in 2014. Now, this is going to end up getting a little confusing. So if you have scrap paper, you can always make a little spider graph. But basically, Revolution Beauty is the parent company. and their first brand became Makeup Revolution. So we're talking today about Makeup Revolution, but there will be a lot of other sister brands that we'll talk about, and it might get a little confusing. So I'm going to try and reiterate when I can that Revolution Beauty is the parent company, and Makeup Revolution is their first brand, but also I'd say their flagship brand. So they built Makeup Revolution around affordability rather than trying to be a dupe. I'd say their dupe narrative kind of comes later and wasn't really what they were intending. From what I understand, it seemed like they were just more focused on making makeup accessible to everyone without having to cut on quality or miss out on beauty trends. So there's a quote from Adam where he said, quote, "Makeup should not be elitist. It shouldn't be based on your ability or your willingness to pay more," end quote. Both of these founders had prior experience in beauty manufacturing and distribution. So that really helped them understand what they needed to do in order to keep up a fast-paced beauty brand and their goal of staying on trend, but keeping the margins low. This is something that I want to point out from the beginning is a little bit different about Makeup Revolution than other drugstore brands at the time. Keeping up with trends was much harder to do in 2014 than I feel like it is now, and affordable beauty brands in particular were not moving at a fast enough pace to keep up with this new explosion that was happening over on beauty YouTube and early Instagram days. So the explosion of social media really pushed trends to move at a much faster pace, and brands, especially affordable brands who were trying to keep prices low, having to push things into market at a much more rapid pace was very hard to do. And because both of these founders had manufacturing and distribution experience, they kind of understood what they could do to keep the margins low, but also move at a faster pace. And even though there were other affordable options at the time, like e.l.f., for example, e.l.f. in the very beginning, or I'd say in their first 10 years or so, were not as focused on trends, but more about giving access to the basics at a low price. So Revolution was coming in as an affordable, cruelty-free option that was at a low price, but was also keeping up with these fast trends. And at the time, 2014, eyeshadow palettes were becoming the fast trend. So the brand debuted primarily through Superdrug, which is a major UK drugstore retailer, which positioned them immediately as an affordable option, but also an impulse buy friendly option. So when you're going to a drugstore, picking up your cough drops or whatever, and you look and you see an $8 blush that looks really pretty and on trend, it's easier to pick that up than having to go to a counter or Sephora and drop $30. And what made this launch at Superdrug stand out was not just the pricing, though the products at that point range from about 1 to 12 pounds. It was actually the scale. So instead of introducing a small curated lineup, Makeup Revolution launched with a full face assortment. So they had large eyeshadow palettes, contour kits, baked highlighters, lipsticks, lip glosses, and even tools. And what this did is, again, right on schedule for the trend. This encouraged routine building with one brand. So it was a complete brand, start to finish. You could buy everything under the Makeup Revolution title, and you could build that whole face without breaking the bank. And they were also one of the first fast beauty brands, meaning they were releasing more products faster than a lot of their competitors. Again, that understanding of manufacturing and having to distribute and what to distribute, where to distribute, when to distribute, all of that came at the perfect time for them in 2014 when people were really craving more. Like excess was it in 2014. And while having that direct access to consumers was important, what Makeup Revolution did early on was jump on the growing influencer trend. That was starting to pop off over on YouTube at that time. So, like I said before, the company didn't officially market itself as a dupe brand, but beauty YouTubers were kind of the ones who picked up on a lot of the similarities and then associated them with higher end or more expensive product. And that kind of helped fuel their early viral growth. So if you think about it, we wanted more and more at that time. We wanted to play with more color and eyeshadow, and we wanted a full beat in the whole thing. It's much easier to do that and to grow your collection when things are more affordable, right? So A little history for my youngins who are listening. Back in that beauty YouTube era, this was the peak of the long form tutorials. So things were closer to 20 to 30 minutes, if you can imagine an attention span that long. They would do full glam, they would do product heavy routines. So they would do primer, foundation, contour, highlight, baking, full eye, lip. Like they would everything, every little thing. So creators needed a lot of products and they needed to be able to afford them. And they wanted affordable options to test on camera, things that their audience could actually buy. So Makeup Revolution fit all of these needs immediately. So, some of the popular content types on YouTube at the time were a full face of using one brand. So, this was obviously a great case for Makeup Revolution because they came out with a full lineup of makeup. So, creators would do a full face using only Makeup Revolution, and viewers could see this type of content and think, I can recreate this look for cheap. And it positioned them as a real competitor, not just like a random drugstore product. There was also a lot of dupes for insert high-end product. This is where the beauty YouTubers really started to kind of build that narrative around Makeup Revolution. And so this content was very popular. It was searchable, shareable, clickable, and it was what people were looking for at the time. And it helped give Makeup Revolution some free advertising, free positioning next to these prestige brands. Another content type during this time, shopping hauls and first impressions. And because everything was so cheap comparatively, creators could buy 10 to 20 products at once. And then they could film these big, like satisfying shopping hauls. Look at all this stuff I had, and then test a full face of new makeup. That volume really mattered because it made the brand feel like abundant and new and exciting. And like there was tons of options to choose from. And also, I think one of the most important content types that really helped Revolution at this time is palette focused tutorials. So, eyeshadow palettes were everything in 2014. This was a big visual hook for beauty YouTubers. So, if there were larger shade ranges, there was more video ideas. If there was a lot of shimmer payoff, it looked better on camera. It was easy to build multiple looks from one palette. So, this content mixed with the fact that Makeup Revolution had these eyeshadow palettes from the beginning, that really helped turn their palettes into their first true viral products, and whatever viral meant at the time, because we didn't have TikTok and Instagram was still new. So this was kind of their first step into the social media landscape. And a good example of this, when Makeup Revolution came out with one of their first eyeshadow palettes, it was called Fortune Favors the Brave. It grew in popularity thanks to beauty YouTubers who were doing reviews, first impressions, and lots of heavy eyeshadow looks. And the reason why this one in particular really worked for that is it featured 30 shades and also had a variety of finishes. So they included matte eyeshadows, shimmer, sheen, satin, metallic, and baked. So that made it really easy for influencers to create multiple looks and multiple videos using just that one eyeshadow palette. And at the time, some major beauty influencers like Soph Does Nails, Soph Does Nails, Carmi MUA, and Belle Jordan all had teamed up with the brand and released their own palettes, lipsticks, and highlighters. So these collaborations worked both in the influencers and the brand's favor. So Makeup Revolution tapped into the influencers' direct following, and influencers gained credible progression in the beauty industry because now their names are attached to a successful product. And like I kind of said in the beginning, what's interesting is that Makeup Revolution didn't fully control that early identity. YouTube creators did. So the brand provided the volume, the pricing, maybe some visual similarities, but the dupe narrative was really constructed through content. And once that narrative took hold, it became one of the most powerful growth drivers that the brand had. A little side note here, I think it's important to note, a little side Sarah note. When I was doing research for this and I saw some of the original products from Makeup Revolution in 2014, 2015, dupes just were a little different. So these days, a dupe can be looking exactly the same down to like packaging and fonts, and it's like can get a little gray and murky as to like, are you duping or are you copying? But back in the early days, dupes were more about like the shades being similar or the formulas being similar, and they were just providing a cheaper option. So for example, Makeup Revolution came out with a highlighting trio palette, which was supposed to be a more affordable option for the Hourglass ambient highlighting trio. And those don't visually look the same at all, but the formulas and the payoff were very similar. Same with their neutral eyeshadow palettes. They were often compared to Urban Decay Naked palettes or their Lorac Pro palettes, but the packaging didn't look the same. It wasn't supposed to necessarily, you weren't supposed to be confused when you picked it up that it was Urban Decay. And that was a little different about the dupe culture in those times. Now it can get a little murkier with some of the options brands do. But I just wanted to make that note. So between these organic comparisons, the clickable content, and callouts, including a callout from Khloe Kardashian for their Vivid Baked highlighter, the brand quickly grew in popularity and used this direct consumer response to help amp up their output. So keep in mind that most brands at that time were focused on hero products and really controlled messaging. They hadn't leaned into the influencer marketing yet, and also had slower launches and releases. Makeup Revolution did the exact opposite. It was volume over curation, speed over perfection, and they let creators help define the narrative. Creators and customers. And the narrative became, this is the affordable version of everything you want. Here's a more recent quote from Adam, kind of reflecting on how social media has always been mutually beneficial to the brand and the creators. Quote, we've changed the game when it comes to leveraging social media and influencers, and are now one of the top 3 consumer brands on TikTok and the biggest beauty brand in Europe across social media. It's important to me that we never use any filters or retouch images on social media. What you see is what you get. We've also challenged the industry when it comes to innovation and products. We can take a trend and create a new product within 16 weeks. When you compare this to other competitors who take 18 months to get something from start to finish. End quote. By 2015, just 1 year after the launch, Makeup Revolution was already considered a fast-growing UK beauty brand, riding that wave of YouTube and deciding it was going to keep growing across the pond. They were starting to land in mainstream retail in the United States. In July of 2015, the brand officially entered the US market through Ulta Beauty, launching in around 275 stores as an exclusive brand. And from that launch, they moved quickly within the retail environment itself, meaning they went from just having an end cap display. So if you're walking through the aisles of Ulta, sometimes they just have like a small side end cap that just has a couple products. So those are usually more for like temporary placements or promotional placements. And so Makeup Revolution started there, but they quickly moved into what they call inline shelving, which signals basically a more permanent and successful presence. So in other words, this wasn't just a launch. It was a very fast validation that their model worked in a completely different market and that the US consumers were ready for it. And here's a quote I found from Adam about why they picked Ulta specifically. Quote, Ulta Beauty was our first port of call for entering the US market. It attracts the beauty addict, the experimenter, and those who want makeup trends rather than need makeup trends. End quote. So for the brand themselves, being in Ulta did 2 things at once. It gave them legitimacy and it put them directly next to the kinds of products that they were being compared to online. So now instead of someone watching a YouTube video about them being a dupe, they could walk into a store and physically compare them on their own. And that's a completely different level of consumer engagement, right? They're able to see it with their own eyes, they're able to feel it. They don't have to only trust the beauty YouTuber, they get to actually test it out themselves. So between 2016 and 2017, Makeup Revolution turned what was a £2.4 million net worth sum into £11.5 million just in the space of 1 year. They also began to be recognized within the beauty industry. So in 2017, they won numerous awards, including 2 at the Pure Beauty Awards for Best New Lip Product and Best New Eye Palette. And in 2018, their Conceal and Define range was voted the best concealer at the Cosmopolitan Beauty Awards. And around 2017, they also began to expand their parent company, Revolution Beauty. This is where it starts to get fun, everyone. So they launched 2 brands at that time, in addition to Makeup Revolution that they already had. They launched I Heart Revolution and Revolution Pro. I Heart Revolution was positioned as the fun, kind of more youthful branch of the company, targeting consumers who enjoy expressive and themed cosmetics. So, definitely targeting younger audiences. So, some of their popular products included heart shaped compacts, chocolate bar palettes, and vibrant color stories. Revolution Pro was developed to bridge professional performance and accessibility. So they wanted to reach out to the people who were professional makeup artists, but also everyday users, and give them refined formulations and premium packaging, but still be affordable. So the brand wanted to be one of Europe's most accessible pro grade makeup lines. And then in August of 2018, they moved into skincare, launching Revolution Skincare. At this time, full face makeup was starting to kind of drift away, and people wanted to show their skin a little bit more, that no makeup vibe. And so skincare was becoming just as socially visible as makeup. So people weren't just doing glam looks anymore. They were starting to talk about their skin routines, the ingredients that they were using, showing their bathroom shelves. You know, if skincare started to become part of the beauty YouTube, Instagram space. And so Makeup Revolution saw an opportunity to do what they had already done in makeup, move fast in a trend cycle, and also make it accessible. So with the Revolution Skincare, they launched 14 products with a focus on simple actives like hyaluronic acid, niacinamide, vitamin C, and salicylic acid. And some of those early products included a 5% caffeine solution with hyaluronic acid, an EGF serum, a rose hip seed oil called the Gold Elixir, a CBD night oil, a super fruit extract serum, and a quinoa night peel. They were creating products that were simple and focused, but that you could use as part of a full routine, similar to the makeup brand, full face, full skin routine. And because the brand, the Revolution Beauty parent company brand, already had a strong retail relationship with stores like Ulta and Superdrug, they were able to just kind of slot skincare directly into their existing distribution network rather than having to build brand awareness from scratch. So they continued expanding its portfolio between 2018 and 2020 with a wave of category specific launches. So stay with me. I'm going to keep going through. In 2019, the brand introduced Revolution Hair Care, marking its entry into the hair category. And this range was built around treatment style hair care that mirrored the ingredient led thinking that they had established in their skincare range. It was structured around core care directions. So they had the hydration line, the color protection line, the volume line, and the repair line. And they also had a couple of serums that were shine enhancing and frizz control. So rather than position their hair care as like a salon replacement, it followed the same overarching Revolution model: accessible, routine based products designed to fit in everyday beauty habits. And around that same period, Revolution Skincare still continued to scale. So they saw a lot of success with the skincare line, and that kind of reinforced the brand's move beyond just makeup into full beauty routines. And that led to another launch. In 2020, the company launched XX Revolution. So this was what they called a more experimental sub brand designed to merge makeup and skincare concepts. So it focused on complexion innovation, glow driven products, and hybrid formulas, with packaging and textures positioned to feel closer to prestige beauty innovation while still remaining accessible in price. Okay, so XX Revolution skincare makeup combo. Revolution Skincare, Revolution Hair Care. They also created a company called Makeup Obsession. 2019, Makeup Obsession expanded into the US market through Target, rolling out across 1,200 stores. So its pricing was between $4.99 and $14.99, and it was built around that kind of customizable beauty modular style, and it was designed to match the ease of Milk and Glossier products. And you might be like, why have a Makeup Obsession brand when you have Makeup Revolution? Well, from my understanding, and I'm not a specialist here, but specifically in the UK, different Revolution brands were allocated to different retail partners. So Makeup Obsession could be sold through Boots, while Makeup Revolution was sold through Superdrug. And so my thought is that Makeup Obsession could be in Target, while Makeup Revolution already had a deal with Ulta. So I think it was their way of creating a broader approach where each retailer could receive a slightly different version of the Revolution company. And these sub-brands were developing different identities on the surface. They were still being powered by that same engine, which is speed, retail scale, and a growing reliance on what consumers were actually responding to online. So by 2020, their portfolio included Makeup Revolution, that was their core brand, alongside Revolution Skincare, Revolution Hair Care, I Heart Revolution, Revolution Pro, XX Revolution, and Makeup Obsession. And as you can imagine, in 2019, Revolution Beauty was named within the Sunday Times Fast Track 100 as the fastest growing beauty brand in the UK. And with this growing beauty empire, the parent company, Revolution Beauty, decided to go public on the AIM market, which I literally read as like AOL AIM. But alas, it means alternative investment market, which is a submarket of the London Stock Exchange. So at this time, they had products that were sold in 11,000 stores in 45 countries. So in 2021, Revolution Beauty Group entered London's junior AIM market under the ticker symbol REVB in an IPO that valued the business at £495 million. Here's a quote from co-founder Adam about this major step. Quote, "We began 8 years ago to start a revolution in beauty, and in order to ensure high-quality cosmetics and skincare are affordable for everyone. Admission to AIM is an extraordinary stage in our journey and reflects our exceptional growth to date, global presence, and significant prospects. We have built a trusted and authentic brand that is capable of rapidly responding to global megatrends that drive the mass beauty industry. There remains a considerable opportunity, and we are now in the best possible position to broaden our global reach and deliver against our significant growth prospects in a beauty market that has very compelling dynamics for an agile and inclusive business like ours. We welcome our new investors and look forward to the future with excitement." End quote. After years of rapid expansion and the build out of a multi-brand beauty ecosystem, Revolution Beauty listed on the London AIM market in 2021. At that point, the company was positioned as one of the clearest examples of fast beauty at scale, a system that spanned makeup, skincare, hair care, and multiple sub-brands built around speed, trend responsiveness, and broad retail distributions. However, once publicly listed, the operational structure behind that growth came under, let's say, closer scrutiny, and the parent company started to see some speed bumps. Now, bear with me as I get a little legal on everyone for a few minutes. There was a lot to go through here, and it's significant because it does change the company's trajectory. In February of 2022, Revolution Beauty was unable to publish its audited financial results on time after its auditor, BDO, raised concerns during the audit process. These concerns led to a wider review of the company's financial reporting and internal controls. As a result of the delay in publishing accounts, trading in Revolution Beauty shares was suspended on the AIM market in September of 2022. Following these audit issues, an independent investigation was launched into the company's financial practices. It later came out that there were a series of problems with its accounts, including the sale of nearly £10 million worth of stock just before the end of the financial year, which a probe found should not have counted towards its reported revenue. The investigation also uncovered claims that Adam and fellow founder Tom had made personal loans to an employee and to distributors, which were not disclosed to the board at the time. As findings emerged, their financial results for prior periods were restated, reflecting adjustments to previously reported performances. So this investigation period was actually followed by significant leadership transitions. So co-founder and CEO Adam Minto resigned in November 2022 during the ongoing accounting review process. And co-founder Tom Allsworth also stepped down from his board role in 2023. So both original founders had to step down during this time. And eventually, trading did resume and disclosures became public, but some shareholders started to initiate legal claims that related to losses that incurred during this period of suspension. And one example of that was a former major shareholder, Chrysalis Investments, brought a legal claim against Revolution Beauty, alleging that it had suffered substantial losses and pursued damages of more than 45 million pounds, citing misrepresentation in the information provided around the time of its investments. The dispute was eventually resolved through a confidential settlement without any admission of liability from either side. So, needless to say, things got a little rough for all the brands in 2022 leading into the next few years. So, following this investigation phase, Revolution Beauty began a clear shift away from that early expansion model, and some key changes kind of came out of it. These included significant reduction in product duplication across sub brands, discontinuation of thousands of SKUs across the portfolio, the restructuring of inventory and supply chain systems, and a renewed focus on core profitability rather than rapid expansion cycles. So they began a pivot away from constant launch volume into a tighter product control and more sustainable operational structure, which is honestly kind of the way the market was moving anyway. People started to realize we all bought so much. So we had to create project panning to try and use all the stuff we had. And we weren't needing another 30 pan eyeshadow palette. So the market itself was starting to consolidate their offerings and create more of like a tighter release schedule. And Revolution Beauty was just kind of in that same space. And it worked out in terms of timing. So, core brands like the Makeup Revolution brand remained central to the business, while several of the smaller sub brands became less prominent in terms of launch frequency and also market visibility. So, Revolution Skincare and Hair Care still continue to operate today, but with a more streamlined structure. There's less products available, and it had more of a focus on efficiency rather than rapid expansion in those lines. Side note, I don't still see iHeart Revolution or Revolution Pro or XX Revolution available. There still seems to be products that you can buy at a discounted price. I couldn't find any confirmation that those brands were officially done, but I just don't see as many products or any from them anymore. If you know, let me know. Also, during this time, Revolution Beauty focused on pushing forward in what was their highly successful US market strategy by leaning further into structured retail partnerships. So, Walmart actually became one of the most important milestones in this next phase. In 2023, Revolution Beauty officially launched into Walmart in the United States, marking a significant expansion into that mass market presence. And this rollout brought the brand into approximately 2,500 Walmart stores nationwide, as well as Walmart's online platform, immediately placing it in one of the largest beauty retail ecosystems in the country. So this might sound counterproductive to what I just said, but it is a little bit different. So rather than introduce the full range of the Makeup Revolution portfolio, they used Walmart as a structured access channel and created what is called Relove by Revolution. I know it is another sub brand, but it's like not. It's like their way of curating. It's my dad's favorite word. Curating what they already had. It was positioned as an entry level creation of the wider Revolution Beauty offerings. So most products are priced at $5 or under, and it was focused on high frequency beauty essentials like brows, base products, brushes, liners, and simplified complexion items. So it was just a very specific release, and it seems like they created this sub brand, and I'm saying that with quotes because it's not really different products, but they created kind of this specialization for Walmart so that they could, I think, just like focus on what they were offering and then seeing how those grew. And this launch ended up being really successful for them, so much so that by 2025, the Walmart partnership had evolved beyond just that entry level positioning and began expanding with more established Makeup Revolution products. So they widened that Walmart assortment to include a broader selection of its core hero SKUs across complexion, lips, and setting categories. So this included products like their Skin Silk Serum Foundation, which is one of their most recent successful products, their in real life filter finish concealer, their super fix misting spray, loose baking powder, pout bomb plumping lip gloss, and pout lip oil. We will talk about all these at the end, but these are some of their most popular products to date. So instead of treating Walmart as the separate low price channel, they began focusing on the essentials and then integrating more products once they gave the partnership time to grow organically and wanted that feedback from consumers to see if they wanted more products. And looking at Revolution Beauty today, the story feels like it's on the verge of this big refresh. After building its name in the 2010s as one of the fastest moving beauty brands in the UK, powered thanks to YouTube era visibility, mass distribution, and unusually high volume of product launches, the company really entered that new phase when it listed on the London market in 2021. But as you may remember from a few minutes ago, that led to some rough waters. And in the years that followed, the business began to face the realities that often come with rapid scale, including marking the end of the company's original founding leadership era for a few years at least. Stay tuned for the rabbit hole. And while the financial and structural side of the businesses were reassessed, the commercial side continued to evolve. So it didn't step away from expansion. What it did is it refined how they wanted their expansion to work. So their focus is on strengthening those existing channels, consolidating product ranges, and building depth within those established retail relationships like Ulta and Walmart in the US and Superdrug and Boots in the UK. So I think that that's where they're headed, is this like recalibration of where they want their attention to go. Makeup Revolution remains the core identity of the Revolution Beauty brand. They also have skincare and hair care as an ongoing category extension that both do really well. And like I said, those other sub brands I think still exist in small in small ways, but they no longer carry that same level of launch momentum that they once did during those peak expansion years. And side note, Makeup Obsession, that line that launched at Target, quietly went away after Ulta and Target came together. So I'm assuming that they kind of faded it out because Makeup Revolution was going to be in the same store. And running underneath all the kind of recalibrations is the perception that has followed the brand from its earliest days, its relationship to dupe culture. And even though the company has, in my opinion, matured and become more financially disciplined and focused, they still continue to operate in that space of wanting to follow the trends and taking whatever's happening currently in prestige beauty and make it more accessible for mass retail. Sometimes I personally think they fly a little too close to the sun, some of their packaging, but I think the core identity of the brand still leans on speed, accessibility, and their interpretation of what's happening as a wider trend across the industry. And I think regardless of how you might feel personally about dupe culture and similar packaging and formulas and all that good stuff, I do think that they have a similar origin goal that they had from the very beginning, is that they want accessible, affordable, cruelty-free options for people who do want to experiment, who do want to stay on trend. And now they're just trying to deliver it in a more controlled, more financially aware structure than before. But I think if they continue moving forward without spreading themselves too thin, I think that having affordable options for things that are on trend is always a good thing to have in the industry. Makeup should be accessible. And I think that if they stay focused on how they control their launches and they're financially aware of everything, I think that they will continue to succeed. Okay, rabbit hole of the week, you guys. I'm sitting already, but I might have to stand up just to sit back down, because the rabbit hole of this week is Revolution's plot twist era. Okay. I thought the post IPO audit issue was kind of their peak, but their 2022 to 2025 era is a really wild one for this brand. Like, I'm sure this is not uncommon, but it was just, this rabbit hole is not actually, but is sponsored by cosmeticsbusiness.com, because they reported every single step of this whole tumultuous time, deep reporting. So I'm going to basically just be reading from all of those articles. Few things to note before I get into this. One, the online fashion company Boohoo is an investor in Revolution Beauty. Also, Revolution Beauty products were sold through Boohoo's direct-to-consumer website and also on Boohoo's section of the Debenhams website as well. So that's just a little note before we begin. Okay, so in 2022, Boohoo increased their stake in Revolution Beauty to become their largest shareholder, increasing their investment from 12.9% to 26.5%. So this increased investment was announced the same day that Revolution Beauty announced their new CEO, Bob Holt. Now, Bob replaced Adam after he had to step down during all the audit issues. So this was in 2022. Okay. Then in May of 2023 is where like stuff goes down. Okay. In May of 2023, Revolution Beauty filed legal action against brand co-founder Adam over allegations that he breached his statutory and contractual duties to the company. Other co-founder Tom resigned in May of 2023. So I don't know if it was before they filed this lawsuit against Adam or before, after, whatever, but like May 2023, the other co-founder steps down, Adam's being sued. Then, 1 month later, in June of 2023, Boohoo announced that they will stage a coup against Revolution Beauty as it attempts to overthrow the brand's leadership team, intending to vote against the reappointment of Bob Holt. Boohoo said that the company needed a senior leadership team with, quote, the right retail, e-commerce, and consumer brands experience, end quote, to deliver shareholder value. Boohoo proposed to appoint Alistair McGeorge and Neil Cato as the interim executive chairman and CFO respectively in place of the current board, and that they would begin a rigorous process to appoint additional independent directors. So a week after Boohoo announced their plans to stage a coup, Revolution Beauty hit back at that plan, calling it, quote, value destructive, opportunistic, and self-serving, end quote. Revolution Beauty said that Boohoo's actions were a, quote, cynical attempt to seize control of the company without financial outlay. It stressed that the move was also a, quote, reckless strategy, unless Boohoo was confident it would get support from other shareholders of the company. So this is a part of a statement that Revolution Beauty gave about this potential coup. Quote, the current directors believe that Boohoo's actions create considerable risk to the prompt restoration of trading in the company's shares and its stakeholder relationships, and appear calculated to destabilize rather than support the business, end quote. Now, you have to remember during this time, they had been removed from the stock market. People were getting upset because they were losing money. They were trying to get back on the stock market. So this is all kind of like happening at that time. Okay. Boohoo is like, we're going to coup. Revolution Beauty is like, no, you're not. A week after that, there's an article on cosmeticsbusiness.com entitled Chaos at Revolution Beauty AGM as Boohoo raises serious concerns over board conduct. Basically, during this annual general meeting, it all broke loose, right? Boohoo voted to oust the CEO, Bob Holt, plus finance boss Elizabeth Lake and chairman Derek Zisman on June 27th, that's what they said they were going to do. But then the remaining board member and director, Jeremy Schwartz, made the decision to immediately reinstate the trio, who would all continue in their previous roles. He hit them with an Uno reverse. He was like, we voted to oust them, but I'm going to vote to put them back in, and they're going to do the exact same thing. Boohoo called Jeremy Schwartz's move a, quote, an abuse of process and self-serving, end quote, and added that the board is not acting in the best interest of shareholders. Group said it remained committed to a wholesale board change with the right balance of skills and experience. They said in a statement, quote, it is of paramount importance that the future board of directors of Revolution Beauty have direct and relevant experience of dealing with its customers, end quote. So Revolution Beauty initially attempted to kind of end this or push this annual general meeting to a future date over concerns of Boohoo's attempted takeover proposal, but Boohoo's representatives voted to block that. So this meeting went all chaotic, right? So a little under a month later, in mid-July of 2023, Revolution Beauty announced that they've reached a settlement agreement with Boohoo, allowing it to take over the board. CEO Bob Holt and Chair Derek Zisman both agreed to resign from the leadership team as part of the deal, and Holt would remain as interim CEO until August 31st of 2023. Boohoo said in the settlement that it was in the, quote, best interest, end quote, for the embattled beauty brand and its shareholders. Revolution Beauty added that it agreed to the resolution to end uncertainty and to avoid ongoing costs and disruption associated with the dispute. We are not done yet, everyone. Okay. So Boohoo takes over the board. They reached an agreement. Bob Holt is out. In comes new CEO Lauren Brindley in September of 2023. She stayed for about a year and a half before exiting abruptly to join Ulta Beauty in April of 2025. I do want to give Lauren a little credit here because it seems like 2024 was an up year for the brand, seeing a return in profit growth thanks to their recovery strategy, which they dubbed reigniting the revolution. So she did help bring a little bit of growth back to the company before she ultimately left for Ulta. So Lauren leaves in April of 2025, and it's announced a month later that Revolution Beauty has put itself up for sale. They had received a formal offer to acquire, and the takeover bid was put forward by an unnamed company, and it sought to acquire the entire issued and remaining share capital of Revolution Beauty. So despite putting themselves up for sale in May of 2025, a few months later, in August, it was announced that the brand had ended its formal sales process. They also announced some job cuts and also that they were going to be appointing its former co-founders to helm the business as it seeks out a brand reset. So it was announced that Tom Allsworth will return as CEO and lead a strategy reset that includes cutting costs, equity injections, and new licensing deals, while Adam Minto will return in a consultancy role. At this time, shares of the company had lost nearly 98% of their value from their peak in August of 2021. Revolution Beauty also announced plans to raise about 15 million pounds or about $20 million in fresh equity to repay debt and restructure the business, with backing from top shareholder retailer Debenhams and co-founders Allsworth and Minto. Absolutely wild 3 years for this brand. My goodness. Wow. So you can imagine the rabbit hole. Wow. Okay, so I'm going to end this rabbit hole with a quote from Chairman Ian McDonald about this decision to bring back the co-founders. Quote, Revolution Beauty is a great brand, but the business has lost its way. We are confident that with a return to the founder-led management team who originally scaled the brand, there is a clear path back to growth and long-term value creation. End quote. All right, we made it to the iconic products. We're gonna run through these. I actually didn't talk that much about most of these, so I will just briefly explain what they are. And if any of these are your favorites, or if you remember any of them from the early days, please let me know. Leave me a comment. So one of their earliest products, and also one of their, I'd say, iconic products, are their Iconic Pro palettes. So this was one of their earliest breakout palettes that was often compared to prestige options on the market. It had Iconic Pro 1, 2, and 3, and these would often be compared to the Urban Decay Naked palettes. They also had their range of flawless eyeshadow palettes. So this kind of reinforced the more shades for less money model. This is where those like 30 shades would come in. These had similar vibes to like Natasha Denona palettes or Huda Beauty palettes, having like a good amount of them in a nice big eyeshadow palette. And then, of course, their Fortune Favors the Brave palette. This had early influencer collaboration that helped boost their credibility. And it showed their ability to merge content and product, really having the foresight to see how important it was to have influencers be able to use a product for multiple videos. All right, one of their first viral complexion products was their Vivid Baked Highlighter. This is the one that Khloe Kardashian called out, and this helped deliver an intense glow. I think this is very similar to the baked highlighters from Hourglass. And yeah, this was this was one of their first viral products, definitely. One of their best-selling products in 2016, their luxury banana powder. I think people still talk about this one. And this helped bring the idea of baking the skin into the mass market. And you saw this banana powder in so many full glam YouTube videos. So it definitely became one of their best-selling, if not their best-selling product in 2016. And Conceal and Define line. Now, they started with the Conceal and Define concealer, and this is one of their biggest breakout products ever. It was known for high coverage and also a broad shade range, and it positioned the brand as being competitive within complexion. They like to compare this to Tarte Shape Tape, but I feel like they had a slightly bigger shade range at the time, and this is also the concealer that won Best Concealer in 2017, I believe. Then they came out with their reloaded eyeshadow palettes. These were a little bit more targeted, more focused on trend-based color stories. So they would have like a bright reloaded palette or a neutral reloaded palette. Like they would have options for the mood you were in. And these were easier to produce quickly and keep up with the demand. Then they started moving, like I said, into skincare, their hyaluronic acid, their glass skin primer tapped into that dewy skincare inspired makeup trend that was happening in 2018, 2019. And they were part of that shift away from matte full glam into skin being skin. They also came out with the In Real Life Filter Finish Concealer, which was their updated version of their past concealer success. And this was built around the filter-like skin era that was starting to come out on Instagram and TikTok, where you wanted to look like a filter in real life. So that concealer was leaning on that trend. And we have the Pout Bomb. I can't say this. The Pout Bomb Plumping Lip Gloss. So this was tapping into the plumping lip gloss trend. And it's still a really strong performer in the current market. People still love a plumping lip gloss. And their Pout Lip Oil. So there was a whole lip oil boom, I'd say last year. They all blend together now, but lip oil became a big thing. So they obviously came out with their version of it, which was a nice lightweight, high shine alternative to a lip gloss. Their Skin Silk Serum Foundation and also the Skin Silk Glow Tint Stick that I have here. Both of those were best-selling complexion products for them in the last few years, and they continue to grow on that Skin Silk line. Their Super Fix Misting Spray, which I have here, this became a routine staple for people that kind of completes their full face system, right? And they reinforced that they are the one brand for everything, beginning to end. You got all the stuff, including the primer, which I do have, the Super Fix Primer, the Super Fix Spray. And the success of the misting spray helped expand into a Superfix range that included various types of Superfix primers and mist options as well. And also more recently in terms of eyeshadow palettes, their Icon palettes. This is a newer palette line designed around more curated wearable shades. And so there's less shades available, so it's more refined versus the earlier oversized palettes. They're similar to the Patrick Ta eyeshadow palettes in that they also have 2 creams and the rest are powders. So yeah, if I miss any iconic product, I do also have their Miracle Cream, which I have yet to try. So I will be trying that over on Instagram, but I'm pretty sure that's supposed to be a fun dupe for Charlotte Tilbury. But yeah, my iconic products, the Soph eyeshadow palette and the multi-use balm, these are just beautiful. And so Revolution Beauty, if you could just come out with a few more of these, that would be awesome. So yeah, I'll be playing with a bunch of those products that I listed, plus a few other ones over on my Instagram. So definitely go check that out at Glow and Flow by Sarah. I always link the Instagram down below, and I would love for you to let me know what your iconic Revolution products are. Or if maybe, do you have an XX Revolution product or an iHeart Revolution product? Like, I want to know. Now it's vintage, so now I want to know what those look like. So send me photos and tag me if you do. So we're going to wrap up with some fun facts about the brand. They said on their website that around 60% of their products are made in China, 25% in Taiwan, and 15% in UK, Italy, France, and Germany. They were early in terms of a shade range expansion for drugstores. So when their Conceal and Define concealer launched, its shade range specifically stood out at a time when many affordable brands were still very limited. And so this helped position them as more inclusive when it came to complexion from the very beginning. And lastly, at the beginning of the episode, my little opening line, I talked about their zero skin retouch revolution policy. And that actually goes beyond their own ads and websites. They actually won't even share a customer's look. If someone tags them on Instagram, they won't share it if it appears that it has been retouched. So they are dead serious about that. So I'll end this episode with a quote from Adam Minto, the co-founder, and again, back with Revolution Beauty. What marks Revolution Beauty as different from other beauty brands is its ability to identify early trends in the market through its influencer, consumer, and retailer channels. A combination of our direct consumer feedback, the close following of trends, and our manufacturing strategies ensures we can deliver real speed to market with new products on shelves and online within 16 weeks. Not only that, but we also invest in innovative marketing strategy designed to appeal to a wider audience and offer products combining quality, inclusivity, innovation, and affordability. I think Revolution has really connected with people because it represents the non-standard beauty standard. So those were the Chronicles of Makeup Revolution. Let me know what you think of the brand. Like I said, if you remember some of the other sub-brands, or if you still love their skincare, their hair care, if there's a product I didn't talk about, please let me know. Leave me a comment, send me an email, let me know your thoughts. I always want to hear them. And again, I'll be playing with the products over on social media, over on my Instagram. I might do a deep dive review for some products on my Substack. You know, there's the sky's the limit. And thank you again to the brand for sending me the products. They were so kind to do that. And I love getting to play with makeup. So thank you so much again. And thank you for tuning in, and feel free to share some of the brands that you'd like to see covered on this podcast. I'll see you next time on the Cosmetic Chronicles.